I just want to share this morning a little something that in my regular study or morning reading, which I haven't got to do for the last couple days. Just been really distracted, and every time I picked up the Bible to read it, something would distract me in some sort of way. But anyhow, I was outside walking yesterday and just praying, and just really emotional day as soon as I heard that announcement from Governor Evers that there was going to be shelter in place. I just started crying. I cried for like 3 or 4 hours, off and on. You know, thinking like, well, if it was 2 to 8 weeks, and you can't get out on the roads or whatever and go see your family, and I don't know. I know I'll see them, and I know they're busy, and I don't see them a whole lot, but I know they're here, and if I need them, they're here for me. But anyhow, it was emotional. I was just outside crying and just praying and asking Yahweh. The Bible says that you will not do anything unless you tell your prophets and about it. And was thinking that, like, well, if there's something going to happen, if there's something that we need to know, please tell us. Please tell me. Please, I'll do my best to speak whatever you tell me to say, and just speak to us and show us what to do at this time. So this morning, I flipped my Bible open to my regular reading place. It wasn't no accident. That's where I was supposed to be reading. And I'm just going to read, and then I'll stop and tell you. So it's in Genesis 18:1, starting in verse 16. It says, now this is when the angel of the Lord and the angels came to Abraham, and he was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and also when he told Sarah that she was going to have a baby this time next year. And so she laughed. We know the story about that. But anyhow, so it picks up. He's cooked for him. He made her make the bread, and he got a calf or something, and they ate it. And so it says the men rose up from there. Now this is Yahweh, or Yeshua. It says, and the men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahweh said, will I hide from Abraham that thing which I am about to do, seeing that Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him? When I read that, I just busted out crying again. It's just like, I prayed that yesterday, and now here he's answering me this morning. And this is what I really like about this thing, because he said, will I hide from Abraham what I'm doing? And he says, for I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they will keep the way of Yahweh and do acts of loving kindness and judgment. So Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. In the footnote for what he said, it says, for I know he will command his children and his household after him, and they will keep the way of Yahweh. That was the important thing. He knew that if he told Abraham what to do, Abraham was going to tell his family and warn people, and they were going to walk the way that they were supposed to walk and live the way they're supposed to live. The footnote says, this is the first use of way in reference to a walk with Yahweh, a way of life, used more than 50 times in the Hebrew Scriptures, about 12 times in the New Testament. So there is a certain way that we're supposed to walk. We're not supposed to walk like the world, and I'm going to say this until the day I die. We're supposed to be living like the Bible says, not living like the world, not keeping the things of the world. And I don't care if you call me a heretic or what you call me. I'm going to speak this until he comes back or he takes me out, one or the other. There was a certain way you're supposed to walk, and you're not supposed to look like the world. You're not supposed to act like the world and dress like the world. You're supposed to walk and act like he. And that's what he knew about Abraham, that Abraham was a faithful man and walked in righteousness. So he told him what was going to happen. He told him that he was going there to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. It says, and Yahweh said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I shall go down now and see whether they have done anything I have told them, which has come to me, and if not, I shall know. It says, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous. And that's exactly the condition of this world that we're living right now. The cry of sin is great. The cry of the aborted babies is great. Yahweh is hearing all this. He is preparing us for what is coming. It says, and the men turned their faces from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before Yahweh. And Abraham drew near and said, will you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? If there are 50 righteous within the city, will you also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are there? Far be it from you to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be like the wicked. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? And Yahweh said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare the entire place for their sake. But Abraham answered and said, behold, now I, who am but dust and ashes, taken upon me to speak to you, Yahweh. If by chance that there will lack 5 of the 50 righteous, will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find 45, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him again and said, if by chance there will be 40 found there. And he said, I shall not do it for 40's sake. And he said to them, oh, do not let the Yahweh be angry, and I shall speak if by chance 30 be found there. And he said, I shall not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, behold, now I have taken upon myself to speak to you one more time, Yahweh. If by chance 20 will be found there. And he said, I shall not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, oh, please, let not Yahweh be angry, and I shall speak yet once more, if by chance 10 will be found there. And he said, I shall not destroy it for 10's sake. And Yahweh went his way as soon as he had left speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So he knew that there possibly might only be 10, and that was his nephew Lot that was righteous in the city. But he had promised that he wouldn't destroy it. So, there must have just been that 10, because Lot and his wife and daughters are the only ones that left. Even the son-in-laws stayed behind. Their life there was more important than being saved and getting out of there. And even his wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. So he is asking you to leave your way of life, the way of life of unrighteousness and wickedness and lawlessness, and to live his way, the way. It says right there, this first use of way in reference to a walk with Yahweh, a way of life. Examine your life. Is your life like the world? Or are you living the way?